everyone, and welcome to a special episode with me and Taff. We are going to talk about Sunderland's finances, in particular because there's been an article on the Swiss Ramble, and we have been all 81 pages. It's a long article, but we have read it, and we just wanted to sort of share a few things we saw in there that we thought were interesting. If anybody, Taff, cracking open here, is it a Diet Coke or is it it's a can of some sort? Oh no, it's not a Diet Coke. It's a Punk IPA. There we go. Brewdog. Yeah, we found a few things in here that we thought were interesting. If you've got any stuff that you see as well, put it in the comments. You know, if you've read this article, if there's anything we missed. But yeah, we're just going to kind of touch on a few things from it. So we've picked out 4 things to talk about. So yeah. Anyway, Taff, how are you feeling? We've just done our Player of the Season awards. Are you feeling happy about your selections?
No. I'm not. There are not enough awards for the number of outstanding players we have, and I feel bad that 1 or 2 players didn't get something from me. I blame the categories that you set up.
You reckon?
Yeah, I mean, if we had Player of the Season, Senior Player of the Season, experienced player, I could have covered all my bases. We've just got too many players. Too many players who did too well. So, I feel uncomfortable about my choices.
I'm not happy that we didn't give any flowers to Omar Alderete. I think of all of our regular players, we talked about all of them apart from Alderete. And obviously being an Alderete fan, I'm ready to go. I'm disappointed in myself.
I feel very uncomfortable about the choices I was compelled to make.
Well, let's start with the Swiss Ramble then. We'll not show the whole thing because obviously we'd want people to look at it. Can you see that, or is it too blurry?
No, I can see that. Although, if anyone wants to read the whole 81 pages, if you go to Substack and subscribe to the Swiss Ramble, you can download one article, your first one from Swiss Ramble, entirely for free. So it could be this if you wish to.
It could be. Right, first thing we're looking at here is Premier League transfer spend first season after promotion. So what's interesting here, Sunderland are top of this list. Now, this list is not in line with inflation and in line with television deals. There is a new television deal compared to Nottingham Forest, compared, of course, to Aston Villa down there, 1920 season. So I think Sunderland are probably still top, but the gap probably isn't as big as 15 million quid. But anyway, it also doesn't take into account sales. So while we did spend 185, we did also make about 50 to 60 million in transfer sales. So it doesn't take that into account. But I think, Taff, you were telling me what's interesting about this is the fact that basically the best recipe for survival success is basically spend lots of money.
Yeah, I sort of came at the start of the season. I'm very proud to say that I had that video about why Sunderland can stay up, and it was about spending wisely on players from Europe because you get better skill for more money, for less money, and about the number of players who are sort of £20 million mark, and trying to catch up with the rest of the sort of mid-table Premier League teams. So, and looking at these kinds of things, that's what I did. I was like, who stayed up and how did they stay up? And so this is just the numerical confirmation of that. And that the teams that stay up are the ones that spent the most. When you made a really good point about saying inflation and TV money, the capacity to spend more and the requirement to spend more increases with each year. So I just think you look at Sunderland, Forest, Villa, Bournemouth, they've all come up and stayed up. Although obviously we've only been there for one season, but I don't think anyone seriously thinks we'll go down next season if we add to our squad. And then you look at Fulham, who did go down, and further down that Wolves in 2021, they went down after 3 years. 2 years was it? Wolves, Leeds, 2021.
Wolves stayed up in 2019.
But it 2019, they're still spending 111. You inflate that up, and you're probably somewhere around the 140 mark today, 145. So I just think, that's one of the reasons why we stay up. It also is a pretty good indicator as to what the newly promoted teams come up. Now, I don't know, did you do a video of this on your other channel about what they likely have to spend, or are you planning a video? Because it's going to be worth a watch, I reckon.
I did one on Hull, but actually
Yeah,
I did a lot more analysis into SCR. So
yeah,
I was a bit confused how SCR worked, if I was being totally honest. So I
yeah,
ended up spending ages researching it because PSR was a lot simpler. So PSR, basically, if you'd been in the Premier League, you were allowed to lose, I think it was 35 million quid a season, something like that. And you were allowed
yeah,
losses of 105 million quid over 3 seasons. So what a lot of teams would do, you saw this with Newcastle, they would rack up losses in year 1 and 2, and then in year 3, they would have to sell players like Elliot Anderson, Yakuba Minte, that's what happened with them,
yeah.
to then get under the PSR limit, and then the
Mm.
cycle would then continue on. We've changed now to SCR. So what SCR effectively does is it means that Premier League clubs can spend 85% of their whole revenue on footballing costs.
Yeah,
So if we were to look at that from Hull City's perspective, so Hull City are going to have a revenue of about 150 million quid, give or take, roughly. Sunderland were at 200 odd million this season, but Hull 150 million. Now, there's a lot of people saying that Hull can do a Sunderland. That isn't really true. So Hull, if they spend 70 million quid on wages, then they spend probably in the region of about 15 million quid on agent fees, manager salaries. That takes you up to 85 million. Then that would mean that their actual allowed footballing cost for that season is 120 million pounds because you're allowed 85%
hmm,
of the big number. It's 120, 125 million quid, something like that. Your transfer fees are then amortized over 5 years. So if
yeah,
you've got a footballing cost, say, difference of, what was it in this instance? It was like 40 million quid we had for Hull, something like that. Then that means that they can actually spend 200 million quid if that's the gap, because the 40 million pound is 200 million divided by 5.
yeah,
But then it would also mean next season that they were at their limit because the revenues, even if they stayed, it would likely be 150 million, so they probably wouldn't
yeah.
be able to spend a ton of that. But what it actually means though is that you've got to really look at your wage bill, because your wage bill, that isn't amortized, so your wage bill massively affects you. So Sunderland this past season, we had a wage bill, let's say it was 80 million pounds. Let's say that our, well, we're in UEFA now, so it's 70%. If we get 70% of 200 million, so that would be 140 million quid is what we'd be allowed to spend. If our
Well done,
wage bill's,
sir.
yeah, if our wage bill is at 80 million quid, then we've also got all of our amortized transfers from this past season. So you can see that number is probably going to
Yeah,
be not as big as what you'd think. But for newly promoted teams, it does help, but I don't think Hull, unless they sell players, are going to be anywhere near Sunderland's levels. The other thing
no,
as well, if you sell a player under SCR, those transfer fees are divided over 3 years. So if Sunderland will get SCR benefit from Joe Bellingham last summer, so for
yeah,
the next
for
two
another
years,
2 years.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, so all of that means that Sunderland were in an extraordinary position to be able to spend more money, and because we sold 40 million of assets, um, to spend this big. But that's what you had to do, and you can't see any team coming up with the capacity to spend like that, even though the evidence shows that they pretty much need to. And no one is coming up with a squad of Leeds advantage where you perhaps could spend a little bit less and end up at the same place. So just a remarkable situation for Sunderland. I don't think that other clubs can do it as easy as they thought. And I guess what we want to know is to what extent that pushed us to the limit, and where can we expect to go? Because did we bank the house on staying here, or have we got more room to go somewhere? And I think the Swiss Ramble gives us a bit of insight into that.
Yeah, I mean, the next thing I was going to show is the Europa League, how much of an impact that
Yeah.
has.
Okay.
So I'll
Well.
whack that on the screen. So this is what Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest did. So Aston Villa obviously won it. Forest is
Mhm.
probably going to be more like what we do, if I'm being honest. I think to say we'd win the Europa League feels fanciful. Maybe I'm wrong, but it does
I
feel
mean, I
weird to say
mean,
it.
is it less fanciful than a year ago saying we'll qualify for the Europa
No, that's
League?
true. That is true.
Yeah.
But anyway, it breaks down here. So you get 4.3 million. So Sunderland get 4.3 million, even if they lose every game. Then for
Yeah.
each win, you get basically £500,000. For each draw, you get 150,000. So Aston Villa got 7 wins. So what's that, like
Nice.
£3 million, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly. Quick maths. And then you get also these league ranking bonuses. So league ranking payment is where you finish in the final table. So Villa, because they finished second, get 2.8 million. Forest, because they finished 13th, get 1.9 million.
Yeah.
Then you also get a bonus for finishing in the top 8. So Villa got 600,000.
Go direct to qualifier knockouts rather than
Yeah.
qualifying for the knockout. Yeah.
So Villa got 6.6 million basically for the performance in the the league stage. Forest got 4.3. You added up, Villa got 28 million for winning the thing. Forest got 13.1 million. So the
And
total revenue.
how did Forest do that season? Where did they get to get their 13 million?
They got beat off Villa in the semis.
Yeah, so that's quite a big difference getting to the semis. But they also didn't have as many wins in the group stage, and they didn't qualify direct in the top 8, did they?
Yeah.
So we would hope to qualify in the top 8. You'd think.
And getting in the finals with, if you win it, the final is with 30 million quid. You get 7 million for reaching it, 6 million for winning it. So what it means
what do you think our goal should be there? Given the disparity between Villa, which we don't think we will do, and I'm looking at the bottom line there, and Forest, who got further than we did, but performed perhaps less in the group than we did, what we might hope to. How much do you think we'll get?
I think it's really hard to know until you know who's in it. How seriously teams take it and the look of the draw. I think as a Premier League team, I feel like most Premier League teams seem to get at least to the quarterfinals of these sort of competitions. So,
yeah,
I'd say quarterfinals.
You'd hope to get in the top 8.
Yeah.
And you'd hope to get more than the couple of wins that Forest had, because they finished 13th in the league stage, didn't they?
Yes, I think Forest got 4 wins. Yeah,
4 wins. Well, maybe that's similar to what we would get. So we'd be looking at about £20 million, but the payments will be slightly increased next year. So we'd be looking about adding 22 million. That's got to be the goal, you think?
Yeah. But then, what this doesn't factor in is the amount of commercial revenue you'd make, the amount of ticket revenue that you'd make. The chances are, I would guess that all Sunderland's Europa League games would be close to selling out or sold out. So
TV revenue, or does it come from that? Or is this just UEFA prize money only, not including TV broadcast revenue?
Yeah, I think I think it might all be classed as one pot though.
Yeah. So we would, but also you were talking the other week about, or maybe this was just to me or in a conversation with me, about shirt sponsors and sponsorship deals being held off to see where we finished up. And now we're going to get the maximum value from those because we're in the Europa League.
Yeah, so Sunderland sponsorship deals, and it's not just Sunderland. So we saw this with Everton. When Everton couldn't qualify for Europe, they signed off their sponsorship deal. I don't know what's happening with Sunderland's sponsorship deal right now.
No.
I don't know what's going on.
This is guesswork, yeah.
But it does make a difference. So Newcastle, for example, they were waiting to see if they were in Europe because they're getting a new sponsor, but they haven't been able to get their new sponsor through. In fact, they're going to launch their new kit without a sponsor. A lot of it is affected by what league
the end of the
you're in.
Gambling stuff, yeah.
And that happens. Like when I worked at Sunderland, you know, it happened when you don't know what league you're going to be in. So if you're in a promotion race, you're not going to sign up on a deal.
Well, Sheffield United didn't have one at the start of the season we got promoted, I think, or the season before that.
Yeah.
When they got relegated. But also Chelsea haven't had one for 2 years because they can't find someone prepared to buy what they think it's worth. So it'd be interesting. So we're going to get more money, apart from having a goal of 22 million, we're going to have more revenue from selling out stadiums, more commercial revenue, commercial sales, and more, and all of the sponsorship deals will now be increased, so you'd hope. So a significant income for us on top of the TV money.
This way, if Sunderland, say at the start of the season, finished 17th in the Premier League, right, the difference in prize money between 17th and 7th was like 30-ish million quid, something like that. So £30 million difference. So if you think about it in a way that, yes, our number is going to be 70% instead of 85%, what we're actually saying is that Sunderland are going to have made 55 if they do what Forest did, so 25 million quid in Europe. Sunderland are actually going to make £55 million extra than if they just finished 17th, and that doesn't
Even
include.
keeping in mind the 70% threshold of UEFA.
No, so if right, okay, I'll explain it again. So Sunderland, if they finished 17th
17th.
in the Premier League, would get
Yep.
£133 million, right?
Yeah.
Then the revenues on top of that maybe would be like another 50 million. So let's say they made 180.
Yeah.
Or 170. Let's say 170 million. I think that's probably more right. So Sunderland then, they're going to be a £200 million revenue club. They've said that. So that means that the 30 million that they've gained, plus the 20-ish million they're going to gain from Europa League, and then all the ticket and all that money on top of that.
And the sponsorship revenue increase.
And all that.
Yeah.
So when people say that Sunderland are going to be worse off because of that limit of the 70-85%, the reality is that we can spend, I would roughly project at about £155 million next season on all of our footballing costs. If we'd finish 17th in the Premier League, then that number would be more like probably 10 million less. So it is worth it. Obviously, if we finish 8th in the Premier League, or 9th, sorry, if we finish 9th and didn't qualify for Europe, then yes, we'd be able to have more money to spend. But if we think about what the club would have projected at the start of the season to finish 17th,
it's well in advance of where we were.
Yeah.
And we had headroom under PSR already.
That's kind of irrelevant now, though, because of the change of rules.
But there should still be some headroom there, even under the new rules, no?
Yeah, there will be.
Yeah.
I think that Sunderland could spend £100 million this summer and be fine.
All right.
Without
Okay.
selling them.
Well, let's carry on. What other information have we got then, Connor?
Okay, so the next thing is this one I thought was interesting. This is the Championship 24-25 comparison between wages and league position. So Sunderland's number here is 53.8 million, but that is because we paid 16 million out in promotion bonuses. So that'll be not just players, like all staff would have got bonuses. But our actual wages was 37.8, which is the
when you worked for the
highest.
club, would you have got a bonus?
If we got promoted to the Premier League, probably. Other than that, no.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, 7th in the table, so Sunderland ended up finishing 4th. Now, if you look at where 4th was, 46 million. So Sunderland performed, 9 million quid better off?
It's good. Yeah.
But I thought this was an interesting table because it obviously showed. I mean, Luton and Cardiff both got relegated.
I know. What's become of Luton? Dare I ask? And I think 2 years ago, the year before this, Coventry posted the second biggest losses of the in EFL history.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going
to. Is
last year.
Low, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean that's because they had to claw back from the catastrophic losses of the year before. I'm just we have we have a low wage bill for the Premier League now, don't we?
We don't know the numbers, but I think most projections actually have us at about 14th or 15th.
Yeah.
We're ahead of Leeds and Burnley, though. So if you think about...
Well, literally and in wage costs.
Yeah, literally. Apparently in wage costs. But then you look at Leeds' wage bill, they're 83.5 million without the promotion bonus and the added players. It feels...
Are we higher than that?
You wouldn't think so.
I don't know. Maybe. We did
Premier League wage table.
I tell you what, we're going to save a fortune if we just give away all of the dross that bloats our squad. We could just give it away and save a lot of money in wages.
Abdullah Bar,
Luis Semedo, just give them away.
While I'm here, right, FB Ref suggests. Mm-hmm. So they're saying that Leeds' wage bill annually is £59 million now, but that doesn't make...
I know. I've had a look at that. They get their information from Capology, don't they? And I had a look at they reckon that 110 million a week for Xhaka. 110 million, wow. 110,000 a week for Xhaka is our biggest wage, which that's not right, really, is it?
It says it's 100% estimated, to be fair.
Yes, but it's also a bit of a poor estimation, isn't it? Interestingly, what you can get from that is who our third highest wage earner is, and wherever you go for that information, they tend to all agree that the third highest wage earner is. Take a guess if you can't see it.
I can't see it. Third highest.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
I
give
would
you a
guess it would.
clue. Oh, go on. Do you
Well,
want
I
a
was going
clue?
to say it'd be Xhaka, Mukiele,
Yeah.
and Lefay is probably the top three.
Only because the third highest player is not ours, and this is the stumbling block, probably, likely, for why we don't keep him.
It's not. Oh, Hertrauda.
Yeah, and that'll probably be, if we
Uh,
don't keep him, that will probably be the reason why. Because do you want your third highest wage earner to be a sort of a rotation player? Probably not. And I think
no,
that's going
probably
to be the
not.
stumbling block. He's going to not want to cut his wages, however much he might like it here, and however much he might now feel he has a place in the team. And we're going to look at paying him the third highest wages and say, one, two, and four are Xhaka, Mukiele, and Lefay. And as a club, if you're running the club, you're not making the third highest wage
No.
a rotation player. And I think that's probably the reason why this is sort of stumbling around. So who knows where that ends up.
Right, last thing I wanted to flag here. So profit and sustainability regulations obviously now aren't a thing, but they were last season. But what I thought was interesting with this, and it explains how we were able to spend so much. So despite posting a £22 million loss over the 3 year monitoring period, so that is 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25. Those 3 years we lost £22 million combined. Those reported figures can include healthy expenditure on infrastructure, youth development, community, da 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 da. In addition, there was an estimated 16 million for the promotion bonus, plus a 2.5 million cost of living allowance. So the promotion bonuses do not count in your PSR limit. So because of that, Sunderland actually made over the 3 years a PSR profit of £28 million,
That's
which
fantastic.
is astounding, really.
Given the first figure about spending 185 this year, but that's why you can do it, because of that
Yeah.
previous PSR profit, which is incredible, really.
And if you think
And
about that in terms of how we were able to how the club operated, people often accuse them of penny pinching and being quite tight. But the reality is that if they weren't that, if they did waste 40 grand a week on Kiefer Moore, as a lot of our fans wanted to do, you would not have been in a position to do what we did last
yeah.
summer.
All right, the big question then, which I know you can't answer, but let's try and take a guess at it. You have already said roughly, but let's try and how do you think we can do? Well, we already know that Gisolfi has said on a number of occasions to different groups, we're really looking for 5, maybe 6 players who can push the first team or flesh out the depth of the squad to that sort of level. Is that right? 4, 5, 6.
Yeah,
Uh,
5, 6, something like that. Probably.
yeah. Um, and I think that's going to be perhaps 1 or 2 you've big signings for big money, 30 million type money, 1 or 2 of those, and then a bunch of Angulo type prices, 10, 15 million. So how much do you think we will spend, and do you think that's the way it will be? Maybe a couple of 30 millions and a couple of three tens or something,
Well,
315s. What's your best guess given these Swiss rambles? Because I know we have to then guesstimate our revenues for being in the Premier League based upon that article, which everyone can go and download for free. If you sign up to Substack and sign up to Swiss Ramble, you get one article for free. It can be that one, and you can check it out yourself. But also, we're going to have enormously increased revenues with getting into Europa League. We even get, I think, if all our players get out of the group, which almost all of them will, except for maybe Wilson in the World Cup, we get another 2.5 million for that, just for
yeah.
just for them existing.
So it's difficult because there's other things. So our players would have had wage rises because we qualified for Europe.
Yeah.
So while that what that could mean is that if we had an 80 million quid wage bill last season, that could now be 90 million. So there are factors like that to consider. But our transfer business on a 5 year, presuming we use the 5 years, you don't have. So Xhaka, for example, had signed a 3 year contract, so his fee
Yeah.
would be amortized over 3 years. But presuming we use roughly a 5-year amortization, then last summer cost us what, £35 million, something like that. So if
Uh-huh.
we say that our wage bill, let's say it jumps up to £90 million plus the 35 from last season, so that's 125. It probably means we can comfortably spend another £100 million, because that that would bring us up. If we're on 135 right now, we
Yeah.
can spend another £20 million on top of that, so that would bring it to 155, which should be safe for us on that PSR. So
Yeah.
it's £100 million without a player sale. But if you make a player sale, if we sold, let's say, Robin Roofs for £60 million, then we'd be able to add to our budget. We paid 10 for him, so we'd be able to add roughly £50 million divided by 3. So what's that? 17 million. We'd be able to add another 17 million on top, which actually times by 5 would
Yeah.
be would be 17 million quid anyway on top.
So,
You'd
but the
pay
reality
17
is, the reality is, and this is the same for the promoted clubs. You don't hand everybody a 5-year contract,
Yeah,
because you give Ronaldo 2 years, and you give Xhaka 3 years. But if you clear out a lot of our wages in Deadwood, all of which got promotions, so there are a lot of players there who if you can clear them all out, then you've got that wage as well.
I think though people get lost in transfer fees. The wages are the
Yeah,
most important thing,
yeah,
because the wages are static every year. Transfer fees and stuff obviously change, and you can
hmm
spread that cost out. Whereas a wage, look, fundamentally, if your wage bill's 100 million quid, then there's nothing you can do about that.
yeah.
So they're right. They need to get rid of these players that are on the fringes, because even getting rid of Abdullah Bar's 15 grand a week, Rusin probably on 15 grand a week, Pembele probably on 15 grand a week. That there's £45,000. Over the course of a year,
That's
that's
more than Dan Ballard earns, apparently.
that's an extortionate amount of money, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
So they desperately need to cut a lot of the crap out the squad, and that's why when you look at, you talk about Hatrauda, if he really is on that higher level, and you have to think about those things, you don't want to be giving really high wages to players that aren't going to be big starters. So I think people need to start thinking about it more in terms of wages. I think that's
yeah.
arguably more relevant than transfer fees in a lot of ways.
So maybe one big Habib Diarra price signing, and then a bunch of Angulo price signings to flesh out the squad. You think? Unless we make a
Yeah,
sale. Yeah.
yeah, unless we make a sale. And if we make a sale for 60 million quid, then it probably means we can spend another. We could probably spend 160 million quid in the market, something like that, probably.
All right. Well, that sounds great.
I mean, hopefully I'm right. I mean, if anyone wants to come back, I'm not an accountant. This is just all I've
No. And I read
with
all
this.
81 pages and got lost in it. So if people want to delve in themselves and try and put us right, maybe we'll come back and have a look at this. And maybe as the transfer window gathers pace, probably largely after the World Cup, we will all get a clearer view on this. But we
Yeah,
could have spent again in January. We have higher costs and higher prices with Europa, but we also have bigger revenue opportunities. Let's see. Will it be an
let's see.
airline on the front of the shirt or not?
Let's see. Let's see. Right, thanks everyone for watching though. Let us know in the comments what you've made of all of this. I know it's a lot of information. You may have got lost. I probably did when I was talking. Taff certainly did. So yeah, let us know what you think though, and we'll catch you again for another video.